All right, coming up after this on the Zach Lowe Show, we got Dakhil. He used to work for the Spurs. He used to work for the Clippers. You can find him on every social media app talking about what happens in the game, the actual game, not the highlights, the game. We're going to talk about teams that need to revamp or rethink parts of their offense. We're not going to focus on teams that got new players, either trade, free agency, injury guys coming back, because those teams obviously are going to look different. We're going to talk about teams look largely the same, and yet for whatever reason, they've got to rethink aspects of their offense. We're going to hit some big teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, the Heat, some under-the-radar teams. The Blazers come up, maybe the Grizzlies, Hawks for a little while. Orlando, obviously, Orlando, if you can't break your 12-year streak of being 20th or worse in offensive efficiency this season, might be time for Stuff the Magic Dragon to take a year off. My God. And we're going to get into all that. We're going to get into Alper and Sengun versus Giannis, War of Words in Eurobasket, because that's always fun. NBA season is coming up. We're taking a break from Kawhi for at least an episode. We'll get back to that later in the week probably. That's all coming up and more. We're going to get into like tons of teams coming up after this on the Zach Lowe Show. This episode of the Zach Lowe Show is presented by HubSpot. Using only 20% of your business data is like going from a starting 5 to a starting 1. Good luck with that. But that's how most businesses operate today, using only 20% of their data, unless you have HubSpot, where all the data hidden in emails, call logs, and chat messages turns into insights to grow your business, because having all the data makes all the difference. Learn more at HubSpot.com. Welcome to the Zach Lowe Show. It's September 15th. We're about a month away from the start of the NBA season. Holy smokes, it's time to actually start thinking about these teams, these basketball teams. There's new players everywhere. What's going to happen? And this is what we're going to do today. Dakhil, I didn't challenge you. I said this is our assignment. I'm trying to think of creative ideas to pass the time, basically. We're taking a day off from Kawhi. There's a lot of back and forth. Pablo Torre, Mark Cuban, they're sparring. Documents are coming. Statements are coming. We're going to get back to it, I promise, later this week. I said, let's take a look at some teams. And let's try to focus on teams who did not have major personnel additions, either by free agency, trade, or like something like the Raptors, injuries, guys coming back. And look at these teams, part one today, are going to have to rethink how they play offense. They're going to have to rethink their offensive approach, their schemes, whatever, because their offense either wasn't good enough, didn't deliver in the playoffs, whatever. And again, we're not talking about, like, we know these other teams that brought in new guys or have new guys coming back, they're going to look different. I'm more interested in the teams that, like, they're going to look more or less the same, but they have to be different. And then part two will be about defense. So today we're going to focus on offense. I nominated some teams. You nominated some teams. We joined our nomination list. We're going to focus on about a half dozen of them. Are you ready for this, Mo?
I am ready to go, Zach. But first, I just want to say, from us here in Los Angeles Dodgerland, you're welcome to your Mets, as we took the 2 wins from the Giants. Should have been a sweep. We kind of messed up the Friday night game. But, whatever keeps them out of the wild card, because I don't want Giants fans to have any sort of happiness in their lives. So keeping the Mets in there is now a key moment for me.
I was at the Mets game on Saturday. It was Alumni Day. A lot of alums came back. A lot of distinguished alums. A lot of alums I hadn't heard of because they were from my kind of blank period of Mets history. My daughter's analysis was, a lot of them are fat. And I was like, yeah, I mean, they're old. They're old. These guys are like 60 years old. Okay, I think Turk Wendell got hurt. He took himself out of the game. I think he went a little too hard with the slider. But I'm sitting there watching them. They go up 2-0. Against the Rangers and blow the game, lose 3-2. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to look at the Reds score or the Diamondbacks score or the Giants score, because all these teams are not good. And if we can't even win a goddamn game and can't hold off those teams, we deserve nothing. And so I wasn't even paying attention. Thank you, I guess, for beating the Giants, who are near 500, just like the Mets are near 500. And the Mets pulled one off yesterday. Pete Alonso hit a walk-off home run, and I'm a little bit ashamed to tell you, Mo, I was in the city at a book talk, a children's author book talk. One of my daughters now, I guess, mid-grade. Mid-grade, is that what they call these? Middle grade novels?
No idea.
And I'm in the audience, and I'm paying attention, listening. There's a Q&A. I almost asked a question just to embarrass my daughter. She did not want me to ask a question. But I did have my phone in my hand on silent, checking the Mets the Mets Rangers score, and Petey hit a walk off. But it's been a rough couple of months for the New York Metropolitans.
Well, I can't say much more than the Dodgers. We've struggled since July, so it's been a very frustrating Dodger run here over the summer as well. Hopefully we'll find our swing here by September in the playoffs.
My wife and daughter did learn a very important lesson at the Mets game on Saturday, which is do not get up during a Juan Soto at bat, because they went to get food or something, and he hit a bomb into the second level in right field. Mets lost the game. My daughter got to do something very cool during that game, but I will save that for Mets Corner. Let's go Mets. You just never know. Let's get in and see what happens. I don't want to be embarrassed. Just get in. Just maybe win another game. Okay, Mo, the 6 teams that I'm focusing on, that we sort of narrowed our list down to uphensive innovation necessary. Lakers, that was your nomination. So I'm curious to hear why. Heat, Magic, Knicks, Blazers, another Mo nomination, and Grizzlies, which I feel like is obvious considering how strange their offense was stylistically last year and how much it changed after the coaching change late in the season. So I'm going to let you pick. You get to go first. What team you want to focus on?
I actually want to start with the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, let's start with the popular team. Let's just go right in.
Right off the bat.
Play the
hits. No, but I think this is a team that's so fascinating on so many levels, just because I think they have a chance really with the Desmond Bain trade that they made. They're really kind of pushing all in. And the question, the way you had pushed it to me, is like, what team's offense needs to evolve, or how do we see it evolving? For me, my first thought is it's not evolution for them. It's birth. They haven't had an offense at all. Like, it's really been a struggle over the past few years. The defense has been so damn good, it's been able to carry them. But this is the first time where, like, they have to put an offense together here. And I'm fascinated to see how do they pull this whole thing together with Paolo as the focal point. How does Bain play off as a secondary creator? How does Franz Wagner, coming off a phenomenal run with the German national team, winning the Eurobasket, how does all of this kind of come together offensively and make this a team that, if they're going to take the leap forward, it's going to start by being actually competent and good on offense?
So you were very nice to the Magic. You said it's been a tough few years for the Magic. I have made this joke many times before. I will make it again. I will make it again and again until the Orlando Magic make it impossible to make the joke. They are the Joe DiMaggio of offensive incompetence. 12 straight years, they have ranked 20th or worse in points per possession. That is incredibly hard to do in a 30-team league where teams don't, they go up and down in cycles that are like 2 and 3 years, not 12 years. To be 20th or worse, 27th last year. By the way, I think Tyus Jones is really going to help their team. We'll talk about that. Maybe they should have just signed Dennis Schroeder, because when these German players get together, Dennis Schroeder turns into like Michael Jordan plus Magic Johnson plus Kyle Korver or something. I don't really know what's going on. But they have the Wagner brothers. Okay, so the Magic continuing their 12-year streak, 27th in offensive rating last year. Now, in fairness, Paolo and Franz missed huge chunks of the season with the same bizarre injury. Jalen Suggs missed a big chunk of the season with his various ailments, and obviously they have to be healthy, and Jalen Suggs has not been able to stay healthy. Desmond Bain is a huge upgrade over KCP, both in accuracy, in volume of three-point shooting, which I think is hugely important for them, and in his ability to, I think, siphon some of the ball handling away from Paolo and Franz, who were the fulcrum of everything this team did. And I think part of the issue they ran into as a team, in addition to just not having enough shooting for the millionth straight season around those guys, neither of whom is a great shooter in their own right, is when they cooperate in two-man actions. And to Jamal Mosley's credit, Paolo and Franz cooperated in more two-man actions last year, particularly off the ball. They'd run little split actions for him off the ball. I like that. Some Franz Paolo pick and rolls here and there, not so much the other way around. Defenses can just switch a lot of times because they're very like-sized players. And so having another guard come in with Suggs, another guard who can handle the ball in the pick and roll like Bain, I just think at a very basic level, not only does it make their team better, not only does it round out a weak spot shooting for them, it gives them more options in two-man actions to get good matchups, to put the defense into a bad choice. Yeah. Either switch a small guy onto Paolo or Franz, you don't want that, and unlock really even Paolo's post game is just sort of in its just beginning stages as a hub, as a passer and all that. Unlock that, or don't switch, double the ball because you don't want to switch, and then we can start passing. I just think it's more options in that vein. And, this team just like 27th in offense, despite getting to the line a ton, getting a ton of offensive rebounds. They don't run a lot. Part of that is because they foul the hell out of everybody on defense, and when you're taking the ball off free throws, you don't get to run. But beyond just the addition of an A+ movement shooter with ball handling chops, like what else can this team do? You've worked in video rooms and on coaching staffs. Like what else can this team dig into to be a little more dynamic and a little less predictable?
Yeah, well, I think first off, you're right on with creating opportunities to create switches, which is something they haven't been able to do, in the time since Paolo and Franz have been there. This is going to be a big one for them. I just think first off, playing faster on offense. And that doesn't necessarily mean transition, but just getting the ball up the court quicker. Like I'm going to be a little bit repetitive on this pod because that's such a common theme for me now, especially after watching the way the Pacers played through the course of the last season. And this is something that Seth Partnow would always tell me. Every second earlier a team gets into the half court to run their offense is a point for their offensive rating. Like it just helps them in that sense. By the way,
I just want to cut you short for 1 second. You said the P word, Pacers.
Uh-oh.
I had a bunch of meetings yesterday or last week just catching up with NBA people who are in town or visiting or just wanted to have meetings. It still comes up every meeting. The Pacers, the example of the Pacers. How did they do that? Is it just Halliburton? How did Rick Carlisle get them to play that way? Can our team take some of that and put it into our DNA? It cannot be overstated what a talking point the Pacers run still is 3-4 months later. Continue.
Yeah, and I think it's just getting into your offense quicker it makes the defense have to defend longer. And I think that's the important aspect with this Orlando team was they're 29th in pace. They were last in assists. Like it's not a matter of, the ball needs to move. Like I would just run in some simple sets. They also create mismatches, run some cross screen action, even just a simple flex action. Just to get the offense moving and get everybody moving around and get the ball flying around the court. Like, I think that's the first place I would kind of start if I'm Jamal Mosley in time to get in this offense in gear. We know what we have, and we can end this all have it all end into a pick and roll situation where we're going to create an opportunity and an advantage for a guy like Paolo or Franz. And I think that's an important aspect of it too. But I also think if you play faster, you're going to unlock a level of Franz that we haven't really seen too much in Orlando, which we saw a lot in this Germany run that they had. He was really explosive getting downhill and getting to the rim over and over again throughout the course of this tournament. And I think that's something they can take away from this Eurobasket and bring into this to unlock into his game, to just get him flying up the court here quicker. If they make an effort, and part of it is, you're right, defensively with all the fouls, it's hard to get up the court quickly. But if they can create an effort where the system where they just fly up the court right after inbounds, whatever it is, they're going to open up more opportunities and catch the defense off guard. I think that's the first place I really want to start. I know it's simple, but it's just sense of just get faster, run faster, get to your spots quicker will make a world of difference.
Well, so I mentioned shooting and how bad this team has been for years and years. They were dead last in 3-point percentage last season. Like worse than the Wizards. We should just call 30th worse than the Wizards. They were worse than the Wizards and in last by 2 full percentage points. That's crazy. That's like really hard to do, and that's also indicative of some bad luck. Paolo is an okay shooter who I think will improve. He was 32% on threes last year, 51% on twos. Neither of those numbers is good enough. Part of what you're talking about, and I'm talking about in terms of pace and Bane-centric variety, is not Paolo shooting less often. I don't want him shooting less often. I want 3 or 4 of his looks per game to just be easier than he was taking last year. And I think that will happen. Franz, obviously, like the hitch, the jumper, whatever's going on. He didn't shoot the 3 well in Eurobasket, even as Germany rampaged over everybody. So those two guys let's posit some improvement as shooters, but I don't think they're going to morph into like plus shooters or plus shooters next season. Suggs and Bane are plus to plus shooters. I'm very curious about the center position and like when things bog down in the half court, what is Wendell Carter Jr. going to be doing? Because if he's setting screens in the pick and roll, that means at least one of your best guys is off the ball doing who knows what. We've already seen the idea of Wendell Carter Jr. floor spacer in the corner is fake. It doesn't work. No one's going to guard him. And so to your point about variety is like when the offense is in the hands of the three best players, and I think, at least one of those guys is going to be on the floor at all times. When it comes to nut crunching time, I think two of them will be on the floor at all times. Wendell Carter Jr.'s got to be doing something interesting, like setting a pin down for someone off the ball to keep the defense occupied. Stuff going on at the same time as the main stuff. And then you just get into like, does Mo Wagner give them anything coming off a torn ACL? Because he was massive for them. And he's like a more legit shooting five than Carter. And then, I don't know, Mo. I'm just going to ask you, is this lineup too small and defensively challenged? Because I'm interested in Banchero at center. And if they can nudge I'm not sure it's a great idea, but if my alternatives are the centers I have plus Goga plus Isaac at center, and Isaac kind of fell backwards on offense last year, I'd like to see Anthony Black, who's I think one of the big swing players this year, Suggs, Bane, Franz, Paolo. Is that too small? Do I have enough size with Black as like a big point guard and Bane plays above his size and Suggs plays bigger than his size? Can I try that one out maybe just to see what happens on offense?
I think you can. I think just nowadays you can. I think because a lot more teams are going to be kind of playing small for the most part. Or, I think it wouldn't be something I'd want to stay in for a long time, but it's something you could probably run for a stretch for get like a 5 minutes 4-minute run in a game and see how this kind of goes. And if it gets the offense kind of moving a bit, and if it puts them in a situation where like it comes down to matchups, if a center, can I make their center have to guard Paolo? Like good luck, in that situation. Where are you going to hide a guy? It might actually force some teams to downsize themselves to be able to.
We've seen centers on Anthony Black before. We saw it in the playoffs with Boston. I think that would be a place too.
Yeah, but I think it becomes an interesting spot where you put teams in a difficult position. I do worry defensively just about the size in terms of mainly just when it comes down to rebounding and who you go up against. But Zach, again, this team has had no offensive identity really, or nothing to really kind of lay their hat on offensively. No idea should be off the table right now. Like this is part of the thing to do in the in the regular season. Experiment a little bit, see what you have in that stuff. And I think there are opportunities to do that. I'd love to see that. I think it'd be a fun sort of experiment and see if these guys can hold up defensively. Because, they're small in sense of like just the size, but they're all competitors defensively. Like this is part of the thing I love about this Orlando team is they all compete defensively. They all fight hard in their positions defensively. I'd love to see it kind of play out.
It's a big year for this team. They have not won, if I'm reading this right, they have not won a playoff series since 2010 when they got to the conference finals. And I think they've acquitted themselves pretty well in actually their last two playoff losses. Played Boston much tougher. I mean, they only won one game, but there was a tough series, physical series, a series that left Boston being like, are these guys playing dirty? And they weren't the only team that kind of raised that. I didn't have any problem with their physicality. I liked it. They're just like, we're just going to get up in you. How do you like that?
We're going to hit you.
And played Cleveland, obviously tough the year before, kind of started a little existential question of like, what exactly is this Cavs team? And I'll tell you, at base level, I think they only go as far and get as good next year as Franz and Paolo can take them. I think at the end of the day, those guys have to make leaps offensively for this team to become a real serious threat to Cleveland and New York. But the ingredients are there. And when you talk to people, both with the Cavs and the Knicks, not everybody, just some straight people I've talked to and around the league, who's the biggest threat to those two teams, with Boston maybe taking a gap year. We'll see if Tatum comes back this year, with Milwaukee being a little bit of a question mark, with Halliburton out, etc. Who's really going to be in a position to push those teams? The Magic are the most common answer, and I think that's fair. It's a big year for the Magic. Okay, I'm going to pick the next team. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the team that had the highest offensive rating by far of all of these teams, and that's the New York Knicks. It sounds bizarre to say that you even think a team that ranked fifth in points per possession needs any kind of stylistic overhaul on offense. They have not really done anything massive in terms of personnel. They've upgraded their bench with Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele, Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet. They, as others have reported, Ian Begley most notable among them, they have a second apron issue, and they may need to shed someone to fit Landry and Brogdon if they want to keep both of those players. We could talk about that. The playoffs was a little bit of a slog for them against the Pistons and even the Celtics and then the Pacers all time. But they got to the conference finals. Their offense was objectively good during the regular season, backslid in the playoffs, and obviously they have a new coach. And so that's the tell that someone in the organization, unless this was just James Dolan being crazy, looked at what was going on the court and said, not enough bench, not enough variety, not enough juice, not enough smart usage of cat, whatever it is. And this year, the wild card coming into the season is Mitchell Robinson's starting the season healthy. And that, right off the bat, gives the new coach a different lever to pull. I think there's some chance that the Knicks are going to start Mitchell Robinson, probably at the expense of Josh Hart. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I think that'll be determined in training camp. But when you look at this team offensively, and by the way, their bigger problem last year was that their defense wasn't good enough, and they're still going to have to figure that out. But this is an offense podcast. What can the Knicks do to juice this up, or do they even need to juice this up? Are we making a mountain out of a molehill?
No, I think there was a key word that you said there, which was variety. And I think that's an important aspect of it. It's as dominant as their offense was in the regular season, it's very easy to game plan for. And that's the problem when you run into in the playoffs, right? Listen, their offense was mainly Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll, and then just play out of that and really work out of that and attack the mismatches and attack the opportunities and then spray it out to shooters and things like that. It's what led to people being so frustrated with the Mikal Bridges trade. You traded 5 draft picks for this guy, and you don't really maximize him. You don't really use a lot of OG and Anunoby. You didn't, put those guys in opportunities or let them have, turns with the offense. I think that's the area that you need to focus on, is a little bit of variety. You know what you have in the Brunson Cat pick and roll. You understand what that is and what that can do for you. Now you need to build some other stuff into the offense. You need to have kind of a second offense and understand, how are we going to work this stuff in? Can we take some of the pressure off of those guys and have Bridges take a larger share, have OG take a larger share of the offense and work them stuff in there? I want to see more variety. I want to see more work and other guys getting a little bit of more usage. And that's going to require Brunson being willing to give up the ball a little bit and willing to play a little more off the ball. Doesn't necessarily mean he has to be a screener or anything like that, as much as I would love that. But I think it's being willing to say, I'm going to give the ball up early in this possession. I'm going to run around and maybe even set a screen or whatever, a flare or whatnot, but work my way and come back to it off of a pin down or something like that. Allow the offense to work and make the defense have to stress a little bit. I think that's an important thing there in their offense that I thought was missing a ton through the course of the playoffs. And it became just, at a certain point, it became a way. We know how to game plan against this. Can we stop it is a different matter, but we know how to game plan against this. And you're not throwing any wrinkles at the defense. You're not forcing them to have to think of multiple problems. And I think that's something that this Knicks team needs to add to their offense, is just a couple of variety plays, a couple of packages for Bridges, a couple of packages for OG to let them start to cook a little bit. And that allows Brunson to be fresher come fourth quarter and end the game stuff, so that he's able to kind of attack with more fresh legs and be able to put more pressure.
I think he's absolutely going to be asked to move off the ball more. I think he's going to be asked to set screens, and I think there's room on this team for him to be not just a random off-ball screener or even like a token, like I'm just going to run around, hit you, and come back and get the ball, but an occasional, actual, intentional ball screener for the guy whom you traded 5 draft picks for OG Anunoby, who can do a little bit here and there, for Karl Towns in inverted pick and rolls. I think he's going to be asked to do that. Now, in fairness to Tibbs, there are already a lot of actions the Knicks ran that would have Brunson give up the ball, run around the baseline, come back and get it off some action. There were split cut actions for Bridges and Anunoby where they would screen for each other off the ball and Cat would hit them. I think that's just going to be all amped up under Mike Brown, who is now coming from the Warriors to the Kings, where, you know, they added different kinds of cuts that Jay Triano installed, that the Warriors had, that Mike Brown knew from, and just sort of got things moving around the Sabonis handoffs. I think maybe you see Cat used a little bit like Sabonis here and there. To your point about pick and rolls, the Knicks actually ranked 15th in pick and rolls per 100 possessions. I think that should be higher. I think my big criticism of Tibbs in the playoffs was every time a center is on Towns, because teams wanted centers on Hart and not on Towns. Detroit, for whatever bizarre reason, spent most of the series with their centers on Towns. To me, it's a pick and roll with Towns every single time. I don't think he leaned into that enough. When they put their centers on Josh Hart, if Cat was at the 5, they had shooting everywhere else. I don't think they used Josh Hart as a screener even enough because he can compromise the defense that way. They did it. I don't think they did it enough. And I think part of the reason why Mitchell Robinson as a starting 5 is so interesting is A, the offensive rebounding is just absolutely insane. Yeah. And B, if you put shooting all around him, that gives a little bit of a easy tent pole for some of the for the offense. Now you got to figure out what is Towns doing, because you don't just want him chilling at the 3-point line waiting for the ball, although that's fine for him sometimes. It wouldn't surprise me if they started Mitchell Robinson. And I think if you do that, it's got to be Hart coming off the bench, because Hart plus Robinson, the defense is just going to scrunch inside too much. And the numbers weren't great last year. I think we'll see all that stuff juiced up on the Knicks. And look, it's finals or bust for this team this year. Mm-hmm. If they're healthy, it's finals or bust. I don't know what they're going to do about this bench. Look, Tyler Kolek barely played last year. I liked what I saw from him when he played. Smart, tough, good passer, not afraid to shoot threes. Dadier barely played at all. Don't know what they've got in him. I'm just saying this. I'd be real hesitant to move on from any rookie on a long-term rookie deal with any kind of potential, and Kolek has already proven that alone, that he has potential, for either Shamet, who I like but can never seem to stick for whatever reason, or Brogdon, who just doesn't play. And so I know they're like bigger names, and Brogdon is an especially intriguing name because when he's healthy, he's good. He was a 6 Man of the Year candidate like 2 years ago. Well, he won 6 Man of the Year, didn't he? I think he did.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years ago now. I would be very hesitant to do that. But any concluding Knicks thoughts, or can I pick my next team?
Yeah, I think I want to touch on your point though, real quickly, of using Cat as Sabonis. Like, I think that unlocks a lot of stuff right there, just in terms of dribble handoffs, especially with Bridges. I think they can have a good 2-man game. Maybe when Brunson goes to the bench, and allow that kind of be a little bit of a moment there, and kind of keep your offense afloat. I think there's a lot of fun stuff there that can be done. I just need to see variety. I need to see things change up a bit. Maximize the guys you have.
This episode is brought to you by Samsung. The new Galaxy Z Fold7 is the ultimate sleek bar phone you're used to that expands to do so much more. Z Fold7 unfolds into a wide screen that allows you to view up to 3 windows at once, so you can bounce between games, texts, and notes. And it's powerful. There's no lag, just smooth multitasking. Die-hard fans, this phone is a game changer. The Galaxy Z Fold7. Learn more at Samsung.com. Display measurements are diagonal and actual viewable areas less due to rounded corners and camera hole punch. Okay. You picked the Lakers, Mo.
Yes.
Let's do the obligatory Lakers talk. 11th in offense last year. Much better with Luka. I mean, you can just throw out a lot of these stats because there's pre-Luka and now there's Luka. And Luka now looks chiseled, in shape, ready to go. And there's this sort of dichotomy of the Lakers because you look at them and the odds say this and my gut and brain say this. They're not as good as Houston. They're not as good as Denver, who I may end up picking to win the championship. I'm not quite there yet. And they're not as good as Oklahoma City. And yet they have this dude who could be the second best player in the league. Yeah, I said that. The second best player in the league if he's healthy and in shape and dialed in. A guy who can win a playoff series by his own sheer brilliance. And you pair him with LeBron James and some okay to good supporting talent headlined by Austin Reeves. So that's the thing that wants to make you lift the Lakers up and say, hey, why are they below those 3 teams? Like Houston? Houston's like a bunch of young guys and Kevin Durant. Oh, the young guys are good. Alper and Sengun just tore up Europe. but that's a different story. Are they really worse than them? And then the flip side is like, oh yeah, their other second best player is going to be 41 years old in the playoffs, and everyone's like, well, if he's healthy and this and that, and he's like 100%, the expectation should be that LeBron is not 100% in the playoffs if he has to go full bore during the year, and maybe even if he doesn't have to because he's that old. But this team's interesting. JJ's been in the lab looking at how to do this on offense, how to make the most of all these guys. So Mo, I will leave it to you. How do you make the most of all these guys on offense? What should we be looking for, or is it just roll the ball out, give it to Luka? Ayton, I'm on record as saying I think the Ayton thing is going to work for the Lakers. You run Luka, Ayton pick and rolls. LeBron picks his spots off the ball. Luka sits. You have Reeves and LeBron play together like they did last year. Go to work in the 2-man game. LeBron take over. Or is there more to this?
I think there's more to it because I think you need to find more ways for LeBron and Luka to play off of each other and to actually play with each other a little bit more. There felt like there were too many possessions, especially in the playoffs, where it felt like, okay, LeBron, just go stand in the corner, right? And then let's go. And that's, 41 years old, all that, get it. There are times where maybe he does need to take a few plays off. Totally get it, understand that. But I want to see him more involved with helping Luka get off and I think get going. And I think there's stuff there. I know it's mainly going to be DeAndre Ayton as a ball screener, but why not throw in some stuff where LeBron's the screener for Luka? Or more importantly, where you position LeBron in those ball screens matters a ton to me because I don't want him in the corner. I actually want him above the break because I feel like with that pick and roll, as good as Luka is, and obviously with Ayton, there's an opportunity for LeBron to cut behind the nail or to attack on the kick out.
You mean for LeBron to be maybe the most powerful cutter in the history of basketball, which is what he looked like when he would do that with Miami? Like, yeah, make the slot cut when the defense loads off you. It's going to be there over and over again. Right.
And I feel like those are the things that we're missing so much. When and I get it, trade happened. No, it's not like you had a training camp. It took, it was like a week or two before Luka came back and he was coming back off the injury. It took a long time to really kind of develop any sort of chemistry and things like that. But I think there's no reason for these two guys not to be able to play off of each other, work with each other to create opportunities for one another and open up the doors. And I think Luka can add a couple more years to LeBron's career, if he's willing to kind of dial back his usage and be Superman when he needs to be. And I think that's an important aspect there. But I think offensively, you have a lot of stuff that I think JJ can work in where those guys are working together off of each other. Even off ball screening, like LeBron or Luka setting a screen for the other guy off ball to come to it. That's going to put a defense in a difficult position. Do I switch off? Am I switching? Am I opening up opportunities? With those guys' IQ, especially if LeBron's setting the screen, an easy slip to the basket for a bucket with a guy like the ball in Austin Reeves' hands, he's going to be able to make the right pass and read off of that. There's a lot of different things you can do and run actions at the same time. During Luka's running the ball screen with DeAndre Ayton, run a weak side pin down, occupy the defense that way, and open up an opportunity for LeBron to lift up from the corner. I think there's just so many different things that I would like to see this team do, but it all comes down to these guys working off of each other.
Now, there's a little bit of a Franz Paolo problem with these two in that they'll often be guarded by guys who are similar enough in size to switch. That said, Luka, LeBron pick and rolls. LeBron is the screener. 3.5 per 100 possessions. That's not enough. Flip it around. LeBron ball handling, Luka screening. I've checked this like 4 times because I'm like, this can't be real. Second Spectrum recorded 7 instances of that total. 7. I do something 7 times in a day by accident.
Right.
Just walking around my house. That's incredible. And again, it's like, if defenses are going to switch and there's going to be a rim protecting center clogging up the paint when LeBron rolls to the rim or whatever Luka rolls to the rim, I get it to some degree. I also will say they ran a lot of stuff last year. You'd see it 6, 7, 8 times a game. Variations of a set where either LeBron or Luka would have the ball on one elbow and on the other elbow, Reeves and the other guy, LeBron or Luka, would screen for each other and cut and spring out in unpredictable directions. And it would be designed with Reeves because he would have the smallest guy on the floor on him. and it would present the defense with that choice. You're going to switch that little guy onto LeBron/Luka, or you're not, and you're going to try to double and get your way out of this play, and someone's going to spring open. And they would have a counter off of that. Like if you defended the first cut well, they would have a counter to that. I think, I mean, I know JJ Redick well enough. He's like the rare coach that I knew as a non-coach when he was much more open about his basketball philosophy than he will be now. I know that that's how he wants to play. I know he wants to run more. This team did not run enough last year. They ran a lot more when they got Luka, and when Luka and LeBron were on the floor at the same time. I think that's something they should lean into. I think this is going to be a good to great offense. The issue is going to be on the other end of the floor, which we will talk about next week. I will put it this to you. Just I'm going to put you on the spot. People have penciled in the starting lineup of Reeves, LeBron, Luka, Hachimura, Ayton. There has also been a case made, including here. I mean, I've pitched it. I haven't made the case for it. For Marcus Smart to start over Rui Hachimura, with the idea being that original starting lineup with LeBron, Rui, and Luka has no one that can really guard like twos or even fast wings. There's also been a pitch made for Marcus Smart to start over Austin Reeves and put Austin Reeves into like, do we need these three alpha style? I mean, is Austin Reeves an alpha? I think he's proven enough.
It's close.
Lead ball handlers on the floor at the same time. I'm not sure that's like politically palatable in any realistic way. Maybe it is. I don't know. What would your starting lineup be?
I want it to be a situation where I think I would probably actually start Smart over Reeves. Would be what I want to do.
But I think that's defensible.
I think it's just I think there's just it's not even so much I know we're talking offense, but it's on the defensive end where I'm most concerned with that, and I think those are the areas where I would really want to shore up in that situation. But I understand the problems that they have in the political aspect of it, or the impending free agency of Austin Reeves, that you have to kind of be aware of that stuff, and that whether people are like they should just ignore it shouldn't matter, it should be about what's on the floor. I go like that stuff plays into everything. It's gonna play. It keeps the locker room going and things like that. So like I think ultimately I would probably in the end start Reeves just because of that side of it. But part of me thinks the smart thing to do would be to start Marcus Smart in that area, just because you need to have that defense.
Because it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while for Marcus Smart. It's been a while since Marcus Smart looked defensively like a guy who could guard these like fast wings twos that we're talking about. He's been better, as others have noted, guarding up in size, even guarding like fours. He's been a little bulky. I think he'll be better this year. I'd like to make a case for LaRavia to start. I just think that doesn't do really anything for me. It doesn't do anything for me defensively. It does maybe a little bit defensively, but not enough to go that direction. It's going to be an interesting team. I think there's a good team in here. I know there's a good team in here. They'll be good. And if Luka is Luka, they'll be interested. The other encouraging things are with Luka, they'll run more. Their three-point frequency went way up when he was on the floor. Their accuracy will go up when he's on the floor. I think he's like an offense unto himself, and I like their depth. I think there's, just backup five is a question. Where does Vando fit into life as a total non-shooter alongside centers? And Ayton, it's been a running joke. I've heard so many people make the same joke. Well, JJ Redick's reaction to Ayton, there's going to be a couple memes this year when JJ, who's like a lunatic out there, I say that respectfully, and DA does some dominating stuff. I think the Ayton thing's going to be fine. Again, when I say fine, I don't mean all-star, max contract guy. I mean reliable 16-8 with good defense and some nice passing. That's all I mean. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know, Mo. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe the 2021 finals left too much of a mark on me, but I'm not giving up on dominating.
Well, I just hate the nickname dominating because it's not. We haven't seen that in so long, and I hate the nickname. Kills me. I'm not as enthused with it, but I think you're right in that. Like playing with Luka will open up opportunities for him in the pick and roll, and I think we'll see him kind of understand the role he needs to play, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I think the JJ side of it will be interesting because there will be those nights. But I don't think it'll be as often as everybody thinks.
If you can't exist as a role man And we've seen him do it with Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and this is just better and taller than that as passers and playmakers. If you can't reorient your career to just do that stuff with these two guys, I was really mad. I was listening to Bill's podcast on Friday. I had in my notes from my Thursday episode a joke to make about how, look, man, if they find cap circumvention with the Clippers, just fold it up. We've tried with the Clippers. It hasn't worked. If you went through all the things that have befallen the Clippers in their entire history since moving to Los Angeles, if they actually find this evidence, and it's an if, and we're not going to discuss it anymore, and they hammer them with a big penalty, I think it's just it just didn't work. Let's try something else. Now, Bill, and I was going to say, let's just dissolve the Clippers and bring back the Sonics. Bill made the same joke, except he went let's just move the Clippers to Seattle. I don't want that juju if I'm Seattle. Don't bring that on me. I don't want the Clippers. I don't want any of this. I want to start fresh with this. And that's my point with Ayton, is that if you can't make this work, playing for a contract with these two dudes, it's just all you got to do is screen, roll, finish, and play defense. You're going to make $25 million a year. Just do that. If you can't do that, go sign in Europe and put up 30 a game or whatever. Okay, Lakers. Done. Bye, Lakers. I get to pick a team now, Mo.
There you go.
I think this team, first of all, I'm higher on this team than almost anybody. I've said that it wouldn't surprise me if they're a top 6 team. I might pick them to be a top 6 team. But I think if there's a team, I used the word existential before to talk about Cleveland and their inability to get over the hump in the playoffs. I heard Perk call them a paper tiger last week. Let me tell you, I think it was Perk. Whoever it was, the paper tiger phrase, that got noticed at Cleveland Cavaliers HQ. Okay, I know that got noticed. I've heard it got noticed. But if there's a team that's truly facing an existential crisis, in terms of we love defense, we're the hardest playing, toughest minded, put the knee pads and the elbow pads on and practice, write it down on the court, defense first, no rebounds, no rings. If there's a team that has reached a point where it might have to trade some of that for offense, it's the Miami Heat. And I am just fascinated to see what this looks like for a team that I feel like has hit rock bottom offensively. They were 21st in offensive efficiency last year, and it's in all the ways that the Heat have just sort of been gradually trending in this post-Jimmy Butler world, and even with Jimmy Butler. Can't get to the line, 24th in free throws. Don't get any offensive rebounds, 27th in offensive rebounding. Don't run, 26th in transition frequency. Take way too many mid-range shots because they don't get to the rim, and their three-point volume has dipped down. This used to be a team that was ahead of the curve, taking tons of threes. They're basically league average now. And it just felt stale. It felt like, okay, you guys are going to do this cool handoff stuff and get it to the second side, and Bam's going to pivot over here and hand off to this guy who's kind of a good shooter, and then Tyler Hero's going to do this, and it's going to end up in a mid-range jump shot. Bam migrated away from the rim last year, took too many mid-range shots, started taking threes. It just felt like boring and stale, and it was just never going to be good enough. And now they acquire Norman Powell for nothing. And I'm interested in, right off the bat, I would consider even starting Norman Powell, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Jovic, and Bam. And the Heat might have two different starters penciled in there that I do. Wouldn't surprise me if they had Davion Mitchell penciled in Powell's spot. That's actually my prediction for their starting five that I already had made because he was so good for them and checks the defense box. Right. And they started Khalil Ware last year alongside Bam toward the end of the year. I'm not sure I really believe in that double big look as the way I want to go to start out this year. I'm not sure I'm going to squeeze enough offense out of it. It was okay last year. Defensively, it was very good. Weirdly, they got to the rim even less with two big men on the floor, according to the numbers. And maybe it's not weird. Maybe it's just your spacing is so bad that you literally just can't get people there. Your ball handlers are not exactly adept at getting to the rim. Norm helps me change that. He's a great north-south player. Jovic had a great Eurobasket until Serbia disappointed. I think I don't know if I'd start that lineup. I think I would start Jovic over Ware and then figure out the guard spot. I want at least two of Powell, Hero, and Bam on the floor all the time. I love great depths, awesome. We gave away Haywood Highsmith for nothing to get under the tax, lost some depth. Pella Larson, come on up. Jaime Jaquez Jr.? Do you have anything for us in year 3? I just think if there's a team whose coaching staff as good or better than anyone in the league, by the way, Eric Spoelstra, maybe my prediction for Coach of the Year, had to spend the entire summer just like, let's throw it all out and start from scratch on offense, it's this team. Because I think this team could be good. And in the East, I think they could challenge for the 5th or 6th seed. They could also get 10th and be in the play-in for the millionth consecutive season. I don't know, Mo. I'd like to see something fresh from this team offensively, and I bet we're going to see something a little bit fresh at least. There's only so much you can do with the personnel, right? It's like Bam's not going to grow 6 inches. Right. Tyler Hero's not going to become Luka Doncic as a passer and become 6'8", but there's only so much you can do, but it's got to be better than this.
Well, yeah, because I think the league is caught up to their whole dribble handoff game, you know, and I think part of their 3-point numbers going down too was just the fact that like Duncan Robinson wasn't in the lineup as much and was buried on the bench, and him and Bam had a really strong sort of dribble handoff game that led to opportunities for both of those guys. I think when you look at them offensively, it's a really interesting question in terms of what do they do with their starting lineup, right? Because we do know and the team wants to lean on defense, but it's only taken you so far at this point that you have to really kind of focus on offense. I don't know if I would start off with your starting lineup off the bat with just all offense.
I think I would, to be clear, that's just an option that I would consider more seriously today than I did 2 months ago when I was looking at their season and just put in Penn, Davion Mitchell instead of Norman Powell.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think I would start Powell in the sense of like just to get that north-south driver, right? Because I don't feel like we get that enough from them. You know, I think when you have, that's kind of a problem with Tyler Hero a little bit, is that, you know, it's a little bit more side to side. He's going to kind of go to the side step 3 and try to find those step backs and opportunities. I think when you have Powell in the game, like he is a straight line driver. Like he is going to try to get to the rim as well as obviously knock down his threes and things like that. I kind of like the idea of starting him, but I'm still intrigued, Zach, by the double big. I really like Khalil Ware.
I'm not saying scrap it. It's going to be part. It's going to be part of my arsenal. I like Khalil Ware. There was a lot of like this happens with young bigs a lot, where when he was mentioned as sort of the point of no return in the Durant trade discussions, like the Phoenix Suns had to have him, the Heat wouldn't give him up. The Heat were kind of ridiculed in some corners, like, oh, this guy, he didn't have great instincts for a big. I'm like, the dude is a rookie learning the NBA. I'll take the tools that I saw and assume with good coaching and good work ethic, this guy's going to be fine. Most rookie bigs are not going to be good at defense. The verticality, the lob threat, the fact that I think he was 35 of 111 from 3 as a rookie. That's all interesting to me. And maybe he's been working out all summer and he's ready to just unleash hell from all over the floor. Right. I haven't seen him. I don't know. I don't know how Bam's 3 is progressing. Obviously, it took a lot more last year. Maybe you do start that lineup. Maybe Spo's already seen enough and said, that's it. I want to see what the Jovic lineup looks like. I'd start there, but I don't mind you going the other way. I like it.
But I think there's a level of like I'm gonna get a little more offense from Powell, and then I'm gonna keep my defensive kind of set. Like I'm not compromising too much off right away.
I mean, what we're basically saying is it's Mitchell and Jovic is the same trade-off as like a little of this and a little of that as what you're saying with Ware and Powell. It's the same thing. Use them in combination.
Yeah, and that's kind of the focus aspect of it is what I want. Partly too because I'm not sure how strong like where Jovic is going to get his touches in that starting lineup with those guys. Like it becomes a little bit more difficult for him to get a lot of touches and that stuff. But everything for me with the Miami Heat, it starts with Bam's aggression because I'm tired of the mid-range jumpers. It's you gotta really start either knocking down your 3 balls or really just be the monster that you were inside the paint and work in the restricted area. Being able, with his speed and quickness, face-up game should be able to try to get by guys and get into the paint and really attack. For me, that's got to be your focus offensively if you're the Heat, is just getting Bam to be aggressive. Because when he's aggressive and you get that aggressiveness from him, the Heat go up another level in terms of just their opportunities, the way they can play. They got to get back to attacking the rim. It's got to be, we're focused on attacking the restricted area. You got to Tyler Hero's going to get his shots up. We know where they're going to be. Norman Powell's going to get his shots up, and he's going to help you also get more threes up. You need to be able to focus and attack inside the paint, and it can't be a lot of mid-range jumpers or Bam settling and shooting a elbow jumper and things like that. I want to see that aggression come from. For them, it's got to be aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, the more you're talking, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter. I was going to say the more I like the idea of starting Powell, because he's a very good player. Mm-hmm. I didn't really feel like he was a huge snub at the All-Star game last year. I thought he was a candidate. He wouldn't have made my team, but he's a very good player. I don't want to overhype him, but he does have a certain ferocity with the ball, for better or worse, that the Heat just don't have in their DNA. Just put my head down and go fast as hell at the basket. And he's going to play a lot of minutes regardless of whether he starts or doesn't start. But I like the idea of, like, but you're talking me into, if we're going to lean into this and really embrace him as a player and what he brings, maybe we do just say, you know what, we'll start you and Tyler Hero and we'll figure out the defensive piece. Or, like I said earlier, we can't be too precious with our defense because our offense is just not taking us where we need to go. I don't know. I think this is an interesting team. I like Fontecchio off the bench for them. Spo will make the most of this team. I'm just interested to see sort of how they revamp. I'd like to see Bam handle the ball a little bit more as a passer, and particularly in pick and rolls. Like, have Norm Powell, set a screen for him. I think Norm on the second side is going to be a huge part of their offense. Hero, Bam, pick and roll, swing it to Norm coming off a pin down. Like, if you're going to have Ware and Bam on the court, that's how you got to use them. And just, look, I don't want to spoil what may or may not come out with League Pass rankings. The last I heard is a couple weeks ago, Mo. The court with the words on it, all the words, the words, heat culture, toughest playing, all that. That was, as of 2 weeks ago, that was slated to be gone. Well, we're not going to see that anymore. And I think the Heat suffered enough mockery and humiliation, justifiably so. That was the Fonz jumping the shark of Heat culture. Rest in peace, Heat court. I hope to never see you again. Or in my wing of absurdity in the Hall of Fame when they take my idea and make a wing of just absurd things for the Hall of Fame. All right, let's take a little interlude to journey into the netherworld of the Jonathan Kuminga Golden State Warriors negotiations. ESPN drops the story today, Inside the Warriors Stalemate with Jonathan Kuminga. Nothing is going on in the NBA when Jonathan Kuminga, and I like Jonathan Kuminga, but when Jonathan Kuminga merits a massive inside story about meetings that took place and where they took place and what was said, and Joe Lacob was there, and what did he say, and what did Jonathan Kuminga say back, and who was in the room, and what color was the couch, and what did they drink. Holy smokes. And I was waiting for something like this because I've been dialed into this situation off record, talking to all the relevant parties enough to know that something was going to pop publicly around this time. And training camp's coming up. The Warriors still haven't signed anybody. They got all these guys waiting. They don't want to renege on any deals they may or may not have made. And so they have to negotiate the salary with Kuminga very carefully, because if it's something over like 23, 24 million, depending on all the other contracts for your Horfords and your Meltons and your Seth Currys and whoever else, Gary Payton the second apron is right there. By the way, and if you go back and listen to the first podcast I did after vacation, I just went solo for 40 minutes. Here's all the crap that happened or didn't happen while I was on vacation. And I made predictions for all the restricted free agents, the big four that were hanging out back then. We talked about whether Cam Thomas would take his QO or not. He did. I said 3 years, 75 for Josh Giddey. He got 400. I was pretty close. And for Kuminga, I focused the thing on Kuminga because he's the most interesting. He's the spiciest. I've called him the train may have left the station on this already, but I said he's maybe the most important trade asset in the entire league because the Warriors so badly need him to turn into something that helps their team have a post-Steph Curry, post-Jimmy Butler, post-Draymond Green roadmap. And again, that it may be too late for that. It may be too far gone. And my prediction was, boy, doesn't it feel like, the Warriors have offered this 1+1 with a team option in year 2. And by the way, you got to waive your de facto no trade clause. And Kuminga rightfully said, well, that sucks. I'm not going to do that. And maybe he wanted something big. And I said, doesn't it feel like they just meet in the middle just like 2 years, 45 million. I don't know what I said. I think I said a higher number than that because I forgot about the second apron. I was rusty after vacation. All right. Doesn't it just like 2 years, no options either way, no 2+1, no team option or player option on year 2, 2 years, 48, 2 years, 50, wrap it up, done. It works for everybody. He's tradable on a 2-year contract more so than he'd be on a 1 year or 1+1. Because any team that sees him on a 1-year deal and wants him is going to, what are they going to trade for him? He's a flight risk right away. Yeah, you can try to do like the wink thing, but it's not guaranteed. And the Warriors, that's bad for them because they don't get the trade assets back that they're going to need to get if and when they trade Jonathan Kuminga. And I think it's a win. I don't think it's an if. I think it's a win. That's not a hot take. I'd be shocked if Jonathan Kuminga is on the Warriors in 2 years, 3 years, 6 months. Pick your timetable. And I said in that pod I'm talking about from a month ago, whenever I said, boy, I could, if you go 2+1, boy, then it gets dicey because they're going to argue over who gets the +1, whether it's the Warriors option or Kuminga's option. And sure enough, inside the Warriors statement with Jonathan Kuminga, Anthony Slater and Shams Charania report the Warriors have upped their offer to 3 years, 75, so it squeezes under the second apron for this year, but it's a team option on the third year. And both sides right now, in what is becoming one of the more contentious free agent negotiations that I can remember, at least like non-holdout yet division, are not budging on that option. Like Kuminga's, we're not taking it with a team option. Warriors, we're not giving you a player option, whether it's year 1 or year 2, you're not getting it. And so we're stuck in this sort of leverage duel. And the leverage duel for the Warriors is, hey, Jonathan Kuminga, we're offering you, let's ballpark, $22 million this year. Your qualifying offer, if you dare to take it, is $8 million. You're going to lose $13 million of guaranteed money. We don't think you're going to be able to make that up on your next deal. And they're probably right that he would not quite make all of that up because that's a lot of money to light on fire to get your unrestricted free agency guaranteed in next summer. He'd have to make a lot in years 2, 3, 4 going forward to make that up. And yeah, the cap environment's going to be friendlier next year, and I think particularly friendly to a player like Kuminga because a lot of the teams with room will be younger /bad /rebuilding teams, and he fits the timeline more than necessarily for a win now team like the one he's on now, the one he's been drafted onto. 2 timelines, baby. That's the Warriors' leverage. Kuminga's leverage is like, you want me to take the qualifying offer? Because it's a $13 million hit for me. It's a disaster for you because if I'm on a 1 year, $8 million deal, you're not going to get much for me in a trade, and then I'm walking. And I'm walking. And you can't afford to turn me, the 7th pick in the draft, the golden chip you got from Minnesota and what a disastrous trade for the Timberwolves, turn me into nothing. And 2 timelines becomes Brandon Pajemski and Trey Stackton Davis and Moses Moody. James Wiseman plays for the Pacers now. Like, I've already said, I think the Warriors are, screwed is too strong of a word because they have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. At the very least, they're going to be good and competitive and fun as all hell to watch while that remains the case. I just think they're screwed in the sense that I think the window is closed on them winning a championship with this core, and I don't see what the roadmap back to that kind of prominence is. Maybe it's a free agent, maybe it's a trade out of nowhere. Who the hell knows if superstar X's situation ever goes haywire? The Warriors will try and get in on it. Do they have enough? I don't know. Both of those leverage plays are interesting. I would actually almost lean toward Kuminga's leverage play more than the Warriors because I do think it is an abject disaster if he takes the QO for the Warriors. Maybe they'll posture that it's not. They'll posture that we'd rather do that than give you a 1 year, $30 million balloon payment, which is mentioned as a sort of structure that's been pitched by one side or the other. I suspect by Kuminga's side in the Shams Slater story. Doesn't make sense for second apron reasons for the Warriors to do that. So go ahead and take the QO. We'll still have your bird rights. That's what the Warriors will say. We'll still have your bird rights. We can still offer you Warriors more money than everyone else. Not all hope is lost. Yeah, okay. That seems like posturing to me. I still think there's also the sign and trade possibilities that Kuminga's side has tried to generate, most notably with Phoenix, a pick and like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and whatever. And the Kings, same thing. And dealing with the Kings, always a smart thing to do for any other team, try to trade with the Kings. The Warriors don't want Malik Monk. They don't want him. That complicates life for the Kings. And they don't want what the Suns have to offer. And by the way, they shouldn't. Those offers aren't good enough. They don't even outweigh the chance that Kuminga comes back on a short-term deal, blows up this season, and the Warriors want to keep him, and he wants to keep him in his relationship with Steve Kerr as a coach-player. I think personal relationship is fine. Coach-player relationship was repaired. Everything's great. Though that possibility is remote as it seems, I'd still rather have that than the poo-poo platter the Suns and the Kings are offering me. So this stalemate will continue. I'm going to stick with my prediction. I just think it makes too much sense. 2 years, 48, wrap it up, done. You get a lot of money. We get a second year. Nobody has an option. You're pretty tradable. No one's super happy. No one's super upset. The Kuminga side can say the ship has sailed on that all they want. I mean, that's something you say now. I still think that makes the most sense. If that is really off the table and this situation is that far gone, then everyone is going to have to look back. And I mean everyone. I mean Jonathan Kuminga. I mean his agent Aaron Turner. I mean Steve Kerr. I mean Joe Lacob. I mean Bob Myers. I mean Mike Dunleavy Jr. Everybody is going to have to look back and say, how did this happen? Where could we have corrected this? And no one is going to be blameless. They're all going to blame the other side, and no one is going to be blameless. Jonathan Kuminga walked into a very tricky situation for a rookie. A score first, score always, go to the rim like gangbusters, score. Veteran team, win now team, finessey team that, yeah, they need somebody like him. A powerhouse, a leaper. Go get us baskets at the rim, get us free throws. Create buckets out of nothing as a one-on-one scorer. But you've also got to do that within the, not confines, but within the beautiful game system that we play. And I think Jonathan Kuminga sometimes bristled against that and went his own way and took some regrettable shots. I also think he made sort of an underrated effort to fit in sometimes. You watch them play. He tried to learn the pin-in screens for Steph Curry. He tried to learn to get it, pitch it, hand it off, pitch it back, screen here, pass to Draymond, get the offense moving that way, pass to Steph, go screen for him. He tried to learn all that stuff. He wasn't playing selfishly. He was trying his best, and sometimes it looked great, and sometimes it didn't. I also think part and parcel of being a rookie drafted onto a team that good and with those stakes is I just think the tolerance for mistakes by the coaching staff was really, really low for him as a young player on that team. And I honestly think too low. I think there should have been more freedom for him to play through mistakes, for him to play through bad shot selection, play through all the stuff that young players who are trying to prove themselves, trying to make their money, all that stuff. I even remember as he was kind of, carrying the offense for parts of the Timberwolves series last year after Steph got hurt. There was a, if I'm remembering it right, it's in Minnesota. Kuminga is late to close out on Naz Reid. He's late. There's no question about it. And once he's late, it's not an urgent closeout. It's a lazy closeout. And on the bench, you can see the coaches, including Steve Kerr, just visibly oh my God. And it just made me think, Jonathan Kuminga's in the wrong. If there's one thing that he could have done or that the coaches could have coaxed him to do that would have papered over all of this, it would have been be a balls-to-the-wall defensive player all the time, every second you're on the floor. We know that's not the kind of player you envision yourself being. Defense first, defense always, switch everything, guard every position, but that's what we need you to do. Sometimes he'd be going pretty hard on defense, and sometimes he'd be closing out late and lazily on Naz Reid. Other Warriors make mistakes of both commission and omission that didn't necessarily get that kind of reaction from the coaching staff. And by then, it's obviously, year 4 of the Jonathan Kuminga experiment. There's all sorts of built in, sometimes you've been a starter, then you come off the bench. And that ankle injury last year, when he was moved into the starting lineup and was playing really well, and then he got hurt, then they get Jimmy Butler, then the spacing doesn't make so much sense anymore with Jimmy and Draymond. And Kuminga goes back off the bench. That ankle injury will always be a big what if because it felt like, okay, we're finally kind of figuring it out. But it's been a tough, there's a lot of baggage, and it's hard for me to imagine that this gets repaired in any lasting way for the Warriors. I think everybody needs a fresh start, but I do think cooler heads should prevail. And there's an easy middle ground here that both sides just has to grab and make the best of it. And by the way, if it is a 2-year, $48 million deal, and maybe I'm just pie in the sky, Pollyanna, there's no shot, the feelings are too bad, the bridges are burned, whatever, that still gives you the opportunity. The Warriors still need Jonathan Kuminga. They still need his skill set. They need some oomph. They need some bounce. And there's going to be games where Draymond Green sits out. There's going to be, like, Steph could get hurt. Jimmy Butler's going to get hurt and sit out games. Like, they're going to need a guy who can put his head down and get you 20 points. It's not always going to look great. It's not always going to conform to how the Warriors want to play. There is still a mutual need here. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm sticking with my prediction. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled podcasting. Okay. You nominated the Blazers.
Yes.
I got to tell you, Mo, not high on my list of teams that I was considering for this exercise. And then you suggested them. Now, they did acquire Jrue Holiday. They reacquired Damian Lillard, who will not play this year for them. And Jrue Holiday is a meaningful addition. Maybe he might start. I think that's an interesting question in and of itself. And then I dug into the numbers, watched some video. I was like, kind of like this pick. I kind of get what Mo was going for here. But why don't you tell me what you were going for, bringing up the Portland Trailblazers, who ranked, let me just check, 22nd in offensive efficiency.
Yes, 22nd in offensive efficiency and 28th in assist percentage. Right? Like, it's really, I'm really more fascinated with the fact.
Was that worse than the Wizards? Let me. You keep talking. I'm going to check if that qualifies as worse than the Wizards.
I know for next time I come on the pod, though, Zach, to make sure whatever stats I have to check if it's worse than the Wizards, and I'll do the. I'm
going to check, but I'm going to predict it's not worse. That the Wizards are better in assist rate. Than that. Well, you go.
I just think with the Simons trade, where is the actual playmaking's coming from? Who's creating shots for everybody? I know Scoot Henderson led them in assist at 5.1, but that's such a low number. And you know, even Simons, it was so much ISO stuff. It was so much off pick and rolls and looking to attack off of that, but it wasn't really a team concept. Like, you know, when you go back and you watch a lot of their offense, it was like a Princeton action into a handoff, and then whoever got the handoff, that was probably who was getting the shot. And I feel like they need to find an offensive system that fits them and they can flow into it, you know, and open up the stuff. It can't just be, hey, I'm assuming they're going to start Scoot. If we're starting Scoot, you need to go you and Jrue Holiday.
I wouldn't assume that.
Oh,
right off the bat, we'll get there. I wouldn't assume anything, but I wouldn't necessarily assume that.
But, like, you know, Jrue Holiday, the past few years, not obviously playing for Boston, he didn't have to be quite the playmaker. When he was in Milwaukee, was averaging good number of assists, but, like, I probably could get 2 or 3 assists if I just pass it to Giannis. So I think there's a lot of stuff where I'm curious where the playmaking is coming from for that. So if they're not going to have necessarily just a natural playmaker, a guy that can just create for everybody, what offense are you guys going to kind of put in to get guys like Denny Advia going downhill, Shaedon Sharpe going downhill? Those are the guys I want to see attack and get going. And then, of course, there's the other side of it is when Yang Hansen, I'm sorry, I'm still working on that. When he comes in the game, then you run a whole different package with him because you got to run the offense through him, I think, to a degree because of his ability to be the playmaker. Like, I want to see what they kind of put together.
Yang just turned 20 a couple months ago. Makes me a little nervous when you're talking about a 20-year-old from an international league talking about running a package of offense for them. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. So when you suggested the Blazers, I wrote a bunch of notes, and literally one of my first notes is vanilla after option number 1. And that was the thing that struck me about the Blazers last year. And I don't mean that as a knock on Chauncey. I think Chauncey's going to be a good coach, will be a good coach, and has not really had a fair shake, despite that he's been there for 4 years in terms of like a stable, good team to coach. I would watch them, and there would be one action, and then nothing else would happen. And someone would shoot or create for themselves. And this was a like miserable isolation team, 23rd in points per possession on isolations. By the way, the Magic were high on that list too in terms of frequency, low in efficiency. Magic also ranked 30th in pick and roll efficiency out of 30 teams. And part of that is just like a lot of young players, a lot of roster turnover, you know, young center, young at every position, a lot of injuries, hard to build any continuity. I think continuity is step one. I don't know how you do that as a coaching staff with lots of young players. Part of it is just like this is really hard to do. And speaks to just how miserable this team was shooting from everywhere on the floor. Cleaning the glass has this thing where it's location effective field goal percentage, where they just say if an average team shot your shots from where they were, what would their effective field goal percentage be? The Blazers, because they took a lot of shots at the rim and the fourth fewest mid-range shots in the NBA, they had the second best location effective field goal percentage in the league. Actual effective field goal percentage, like did you make the shots? 25th. That is as big of a gap, positive or negative, as you will ever see. They were 25th in shooting percentage at the rim, 28th from mid-range, 26th from threes. Could not shoot for shit anywhere on the floor. Could that change this year? Sure. I mean, look, Tumani Kamara shot 37.5% from three. He had wide open threes. People didn't guard him. Avdia made some progress. I loved him in the second half of the season. The free throws getting to the rim. Continuity, better shooting. They were 29th in turnover rate. That's a young player thing. And they had a similar thing in transition where they got out in transition a lot, as you would want a young team who struggles in the half court to do. And they were 29th in points per possession in transition. Just a lot of finishing issues with Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe at the rim, just taking tough shots, contorting themselves, throwing up wild layups when probably a kick-out pass would be better. Typical young player stuff. This team should be better offensively this year. I think the coaching staff needed to get in the lab and craft a little more continuity, coach a little more continuity. But I will say, you said, I assume Scoot will start. I hope to hell Scoot Henderson starts because as much as this team would surely love to make the play-in tournament, it's still a development story to me. And you just drafted a 20-year-old center in the first round. Okay. To me, there are only three starters in Penn right now. Avdia, Kamara, and Klingon.
Yes.
That leaves two spots for Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, still here. People forget that he exists. I forget that he exists sometimes. Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe. I'm telling you right now, there's a world with a coach who's a pretty persnickety coach in terms of his standards on defense. Put Shaedon Sharpe on the bench last year and told the world why. Not guarding hard enough. A point guard who's pretty persnickety about decision making. There's a coach who probably wants to win some more goddamn basketball games this year, timeline, irregardless of timeline. There's a world in which the starting lineup on opening night for the Pacers is Drew Holiday, Tumani Kamara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and Donovan Klingon. And let me tell you, Mo, I do not want to live in that world. No. I do not want to live in a world when both Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe are coming off the bench for a team that's not going to be good or not going to be like over 500 chasing playoffs good, no matter what lineups they play. I need to see particularly what Scoot can be with real talent around him. He's one of my most intriguing players for the season. If that means Drew Holiday's got to bite the bullet and come off the bench, if that means Jeremy Grant has to come off the bench, I'm okay with that. Shaedon Sharpe, I'm more okay with kind of working as a sixth man. If he comes in and rounds out his game a little bit and earns his way into the starting lineup, that's fine too. I don't like that. The veteran lineup is fine. I get it. Drew Holiday is one of the greatest guard defenders of all time. I don't want to see that, Mo. As a league pass aficionado, I do not want to see that. As someone who's going to find all the streaming games, figure out what's on where. It's not a highlights league. League. Don't say it's a highlights league. Now, I think Adam Silver got a little bit unfairly raked over the coals. You get raked over the coals? Raked over the coals yes. For that because he then added correctly that there are more games on broadcast TV than ever this year. You can pick and choose your streaming services, but that shit is expensive. As someone who, by the way, do you have a way to remind yourself to unsubscribe, Mo? I got to get better at this because I'll subscribe to stuff and be like,
I did with that. I just got killed by LinkedIn Premium.
LinkedIn, you're a subscriber of LinkedIn Premium?
I did the free trial.
What do I get for LinkedIn Premium? I did the free trial
to find out what I get with LinkedIn Premium.
What a mistake. Okay, Mo, you need me more than I need you. Oh, my God.
Got hit with that one.
Apologies to the fine folks at LinkedIn. I'm sure LinkedIn Premium is a fine product. You will clearly not be sponsoring the Zach Lowe Show anytime soon.
Sorry.
That's a bring Scoot Henderson off the bench level bad decision, Mo.
Yes.
The commissioner of a sports league should just never say that this is a highlights league. It should never happen. No. It diminishes the game, even if you then follow it up with a more nuanced, well-crafted answer. it's a highlight lead stinks. You don't win the championship based on highlights, and the championship is what we're all here for. I don't even know what the hell we're talking about anymore. The Blazers, whatever.
But I'll say this, though, just to the Scoot Henderson point. It's a disservice to the organization if they don't start him, because you need to find out what it is. This is such a make or break year for him, and it's so important for them to have that understanding of what do we have in Scoot Henderson, and what can he be for us. He doesn't have to be all of that right now this season, but we have to see the progress and see where it's going, and you got to do it at some point. You might as well put him right off the bat as a starter. Because I think next year you're in a very, very difficult position. Once Dame's healthy, then you really have to figure out what you're going to do. Obviously, that's future Blazers problems, but they need to find out now, what do they have in Scoot Henderson? And I think it'd be a disservice to the organization just going forward if they just say, hey, we're just going to put him on the bench. We're going to bring him off the bench. It's hard to get those minutes that you're going to need to see if he's this guy. If you're just going to start him, if he's just going to be a bench player for you and not a starter.
By the way, the wild card is that the fact that the team is in the process of being sold / just got sold. There might be more pressure on everyone in the organization. Like I don't know who's in the most secure or insecure in their positions. The front office, the coaching staff, anybody. I don't know. Rapid fire, just 3 other teams that I wanted to bring up and you wanted to bring up that we're not going to belabor. Memphis, I think, is just the most obvious one. The team that played the most idiosyncratic offense last year and decided 3/4 of the 90% through the year, we don't want to play that way anymore. Ja Morant doesn't want to play that way anymore. I don't. We'll see. They totally went away from the pick and roll. It was cool for a while, and then it wasn't cool. Atlanta, I want to table Atlanta because I need to go to therapy because of the Hawks. I need to learn. I need to learn how to have the Hawks in my life. Why did you want to talk about the Hawks? Is it more just like, is it the stuff I've been talking about? Like, can we continue moving in a direction of it's not just Trae Young pick and rolls 100 times a game. We have other guys who can do other things. Let's spice it up a little bit. Yes,
and then the addition of Porzingis and how he can kind of present a different iteration to their offense. Because I don't think Trae Young's ever played with a pick and pop big like Porzingis or even close to that level, and I think that opens up opportunities when he's able to create mismatches. And then how do you guys attack from that? I think was really kind of what I was focusing on.
I was guilty of just putting Okongwu as the starting center in Penn even after the Porzingis trade. If I was Okongwu, I'd be fucking pissed if I lost my starting job after the way I finished last year. And then I've talked to some people. I don't know that it's an open competition. I don't know. I think all these people are just getting back to their camps, their teams the last week, and really amping up soon. They're not going to start both of them. You could talk me into Porzingis as a starter because I want to match his minutes up with Trae's minutes to maximize the pick and pop aspect. Because the Trae, Daniels, Risache, Johnson, Okongwu lineup is not a great shooting lineup, top to bottom. Rim protection from Porzingis, a little bit easier of a defensive identity. I don't know what I would do there. It's an that's one of the more interesting. And again, we overdo these things because they're going to play together a little bit, and then they're both going to play a lot of minutes individually. And Porzingis is inevitably going to miss time. What would you do?
I would probably start Porzingis again to align himself a little bit more with Trae Young's minutes, because I think that's where you're going to get the most maximum Porzingis out of that situation. And I think you're going to maximize the offense to a large degree. Like you said, that lineup when it was Okongwu wasn't as great offensively numbers wise. And it's not, I'm an SC guy. Okongwu's an SC guy. Like I want all Trojans to kill it, but it's tough to put him in that situation. I think it's tough to justify it when you have Porzingis there that can change your offense and the variables in your offense and create opportunities for everybody else.
It's fair. I think absent the last 2 months of last season, Porzingis starting would be a no-brainer. Okongwu going up a level the way he did and being young, and Porzingis being not old, but mid-career and like just sort of generally unreliable as from an availability perspective. I think it's interesting. Also interesting, we're not going to do the Rockets because they imported a player who changes your offense for the good just by being there, and that's Kevin Durant. But, I did see over the weekend some reporting that Ime Udoka hasn't decided on the fifth starter yet, with the other four being Van Vliet, Amen Thompson, Durant, and Sengun. And that Jabari Smith Jr. may be the favorite. I think that's less interesting than the Hawks one because it's going to be Jabari Smith Jr. or it's going to be Finney Smith or it's going to be Tari Eason. It's going to be like a broadly similar player who has a similar job in that lineup. But I love the Rockets. I think the Rockets are going to be really good. What did you make of? I skirted all over this because I didn't over this a little bit. I didn't realize how spicy it got. Sengun calling Giannis not a great passer at Eurobasket. And Giannis being like, yo, watch my highlights. It's a highlight league. I guess Giannis is right. It's a highlight league. Watch my highlights and get back to me. And then the coach, I think Spanoulis is the coach of Greece now. He is. Greece got third at Eurobasket, by the way. Sengun is a very, very small kid to talk about Giannis. This is bullshit. We were not having a good day about the game. I love that people got fired up about this. I think Giannis is a good passer. I don't know good, great semantics. I don't think Sengun is wrong that like Giannis is a good passer but not a great one. To me, Giannis is a great passer when he wants to be a great passer, and it's just the same issue that a lot of scorers have. They pass once they can't score.
Right.
And I'd like to see Giannis be a little bit more of a proactive passer. That hasn't been his style of play, and that's been mostly awesome for the Bucks because they haven't had a team that has enough talent really for him to play that way. And also, if like Giannis should go to the rim until somebody stops him. But I don't think Sengun is wrong. I think Sengun's a better passer than Giannis. The assist numbers won't bear that out. Giannis averages more assists. I think Sengun's a better passer than Giannis. Talk your shit, Alperen Sengun. That's what I say.
Go to work. I kind of agree. I agree with you and with Sengun. So I think that's and that's not a massive shot at Giannis. Sengun's not the scorer. Giannis is.
Giannis is
not even,
like
not even close.
Forget it.
So yeah, so it's I just think there's just everybody's got different levels of games to it and so on, and I think that's really it. But it is fun when these things get spicy. I love when we have that stuff. We need more of these, Zach.
We're in talks for an Alperen Sengun appearance on the Zach Lowe show, so that would be a lot of fun because I think the Rockets are going to be really interesting, and whatever they do, he's going to be a central part of it.
A focal point, yeah.
I can't wait for him and KD to sort of get some chemistry playing off of each other. All right. Well, was there any other team you were secretly dying to talk about that we didn't talk about? Offense only. Offense only today.
No, I think we're good. I think we covered pretty much the basics of that. I'll throw one question at you real quick. And this is I'm putting you on the spot.
I like when people ask me questions on my podcast.
Yeah, on the spot. What do you make of the Spurs? Because I think we're both believers in this being a good year for them. But I am worried of their lack of shooting. I think their defense will cover that up to a large degree. But where are you with how do they handle that?
So I'm so glad you mentioned them because they were on my initial list for this very exercise for the reason that you bring up. And you and I have already gone on record. We're higher on the Spurs than consensus. I would take the over on the Spurs. I would take the over on everything Wembanyama. You couldn't oversell me on what that dude is going to do. I already have said like the Fox extension. People are like, it's a lot for De'Aaron Fox. How does this fit with Dylan Harper and like the timelines? I don't care. I like the extension. De'Aaron Fox is really good. I'm betting big on a De'Aaron Fox bounce back year. And I decided to table it because I think they're so interesting that I don't want to shoehorn them in to this discussion because I am worried about exactly the same thing you have. I'm worried that I am overlooking in my exuberance the lack of shooting. It's funny because Fox, Vassell, Barnes, Wembanyama, and then pick the fifth starter. I assume it'll be Castle. That's a pretty good shooting lineup. Like it's not bad, but it's just off the bench. I've got Keldon Johnson. I've got Sohan. I've got a bunch of centers. I don't know how it all mixes and matches. And, as much as we are sometimes guilty of fetishizing shooting and gravity and like, because a lot of those great shooters when the going gets tough in the playoffs, they can't get their shots. In the regular season, like if you don't have shooting, it just doesn't work as well as the names on the back of the jersey suggest it should work. I'm still not off my hammer the Spurs over yet, but it's something that I wanted to look deeper into. What are you starting to get worried?
Just worried a little bit about the shooting in terms of what it does to the spacing and how it impacts because I kind of been looking more and more at the potential of the Fox Wemby pick and roll and what that would open up and things like that. But again, it does clog the paint. It does. If I'm coaching against them, I'm packing in the paint and just, all right, daring you guys to shoot from deep. And that's just one of those things. Again, I think the long run, I think the defense will paper over a lot of that stuff. I think they're going to be so good defensively, especially with Wemby on the floor. Like, I think he'll make up for that stuff. It'll be tough to score against them. But just something I'm keeping an eye on and was going to ask you about.
Harper's a rookie who handles the ball. Carter Bryant looked incredible on defense in Summer League and like wildly green on offense, which, again, rookie. Sohan's a strange player, but he can't shoot. Keldon Johnson likes to shoot, is just okay at it. It will be. You're right that's what coaches are going to do. And Vassell, I love his game. I love his jumper. I think he's taken some steps as a finisher at the basket. He's also in and out of the lineup, and if they lose him, and he's really their like A plus level shooter, like that's a huge blow. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, one of my projects, not projects, but one of the things I'm going to take an hour or whatever, it's not going to take long to do in the coming days. I want to go back and watch every Fox Wembanyama pick and roll. I think they only played 5 games together, so
yeah, it won't take you very long.
But I want to see what did it look like? Who was on the floor? What kind of passes did Fox discover? What kind of angles did Wemby roll to, pop to? I want to see all of that because that may be the single most interesting two-man game in the NBA this coming year in terms of what it could portend for the rest of the league if it clicks. Mo Dakhil, where can we find you this week, next week, all weeks? Promote yourself.
All right. So for starters, I'm still writing a Bleacher Report. I have something dropping this week on bounce back players. So players I think that are going to be a bounce back. De'Aaron Fox is one of them, as we kind of talked about. And I just kind of want to let everybody know this season I'm going to be covering the NBA with offsides alongside some really fun creators like Jason Concepcion. You can find us on all the socials at Join Offside. We're creating a new sports app around creators. That's going to be a fun sort of way to watch it's kind of a highlight league, Zach, but not really. But for us to be able to give you quick videos, give you a rundown of what's going on in the NBA, please come check us out. Go join at Join Offsides, and then again, sign up for the app, the wait list for the app, because that's where you're going to be able to find all my videos, and I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of videos this season.
Well, again, I will close by saying the thing I always say about you, Mo. If you want to know how one team in this highlight league beat the other team in this highlight league, like what actually happened on the floor, whatever social platform you're talking about, follow Mo Dakhil Mo. We'll be hearing from you again soon on this podcast. I follow you all over the place. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it for today's edition of the Zach Lowe Show. We'll see you later this week. TBD on topics, but we'll be coming back later this week. NBA season coming up right around the corner. Thanks to Mo Dakhil, thanks to Jesse, Victoria, and Ceruti on production. We'll see you later this week on the Zach Lowe Show. Thank you for listening and or watching.